When the Fantastic Four debuted in 1961, they redefined superhero storytelling. Created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, they weren't just a team, they were a family. Their conflicts, struggles, and scientific wonder set them apart from the mythic heroes of DC. Unlike Superman or Batman, the Fantastic Four pulled from the golden age of sci-fi. The Fantastic Four also marked the birth of the Marvel method. Instead of full scripts, Stan Lee gave loose outlines, allowing Kirby to shape entire stories visually before dialogue was even added. This gave Kirby a lot more creative control, leading to some of Marvel's most iconic moments, like the creation of the Silver Surfer. Originally, Lee had only envisioned Galactus, but Kirby added the Surfer, believing a cosmic god needed a herald. Beyond their own adventures, the Fantastic Four set the foundation for Marvel's entire universe. The X-Men borrowed their family dynamics, Spider-Man embraced their flawed humanity, and even the Avengers took cues from their balance of personal drama and epic stakes. Though their popularity has fluctuated, the Fantastic Four remain Marvel's cornerstone, a family of explorers shaping the multiverse itself. But while their legacy in comics is undeniable, their journey to the big screen has been anything but smooth. In fact, even before big budget adaptations tried to get them right, an early attempt was made under far more unusual circumstances. In 1994, a low-budget Fantastic Four film was produced by Roger Corman and Bernd Eichinger, not as a serious theatrical release, but as a strategic move to retain the film rights. Eichinger had acquired the rights in the 1980s, but his contract required him to begin production by a certain deadline or risk losing them entirely. To fulfill this requirement as cheaply as possible, he partnered with Corman, known for his ability to stretch tiny budgets, and rushed the film into production with a budget of just $1 million.
What's the budget? And he said, $30 million. And I said, how much money do you have? $1 million.
Despite being fully shot and edited, the movie was never intended for release. According to reports, Marvel had no desire for a low-budget adaptation to define one of its most famous properties. Stan Lee later claimed the project was only made to prevent the rights from lapsing, and Marvel executive Avi Arad allegedly purchased the film's negatives just to ensure it was buried. Though the film never officially saw the light of day, bootleg copies surfaced over the years, gaining a cult following. Fans were drawn to its sincerity, campy charm, and surprisingly comic-accurate character portrayals, making it one of the most infamous lost films in superhero history. A decade after the failed 1994 adaptation, Fantastic Four finally hit theaters with a much bigger budget, a star-studded cast, and hopes of revitalizing the beloved superhero team. Released in 2005, this film starred Jessica Alba as Sue Storm, and even Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. The casting was generally praised, with Evans in particular garnering attention for his charismatic take on Johnny, blending humor and arrogance in a way that made the character instantly likable. Despite the strong cast and the high-profile production though, the film itself received a mixed reception. Critics and audiences were divided over its tone and character development. While the film introduced the Fantastic Four in an accessible way for general audiences, it often felt shallow in terms of character exploration. The plot, which focused on the team's origin and their conflict with Dr. Doom, was criticized for being overly simplistic and lacking the depth that fans had come to expect from superhero content. The characters, while well casted, felt one-dimensional, and the relationships didn't carry the emotional weight needed to resonate with the viewers. In 2007, the sequel Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer was released, hoping to capitalize on the popularity of its predecessor. The film introduced the iconic Silver Surfer, played by Doug Jones, who was a character with a tragic backstory and powerful cosmic abilities. However, despite the Silver Surfer's intriguing introduction, the film faced a lot of criticism for its portrayal of Galactus, one of the Fantastic Four's most formidable foes. In the comics, Galactus is depicted as a massive godlike being who devours entire planets to sustain himself. However, in Rise of the Silver Surfer, the character was reduced to a vague cloud-like entity, essentially a swirling mass of energy. The decision sparked outrage amongst fans who felt like the essence of Galactus, one of Marvel's most imposing figures, was severely diluted. The film also suffered from pacing issues and underdeveloped subplots, including a rushed romance between Sue and Reed. Yet, despite the backlash, Rise of the Silver Surfer did manage to achieve some success at the box office, which does show that Fantastic Four was an intriguing storyline. While these films are often seen as fun attempts to bring the Fantastic Four to the big screen, they struggled to capture the depth and complexity of the characters from the comics. Ultimately, the 2005 film and its sequel didn't reach the same critical heights as some of their Marvel counterparts, but paved the way for future attempts at adapting the team to film, something that would eventually see a more faithful, if equally troubled, reboot in 2015. In 2015, Fox made another attempt to breathe new life into the Fantastic Four franchise with a complete reboot, with a fresh cast including Miles Teller as Reed Richards, Kate Mara as Sue Storm, Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm, and Jamie Bell as Ben Grimm. The film aimed for a darker, more grounded tone. The goal was to differentiate itself from the more colorful and lighter adaptation in the past. Unfortunately, the reboot was met with overwhelming overwhelming criticism and failed to resonate with the majority of critics and audiences. One of the most significant complaints about the film was its tone. While many superhero movies at the time were exploring darker and more serious themes, thanks in part to films like The Dark Knight, Fantastic Four's shift in tone felt forced and disconnected from the essence of the original comics. The Fantastic Four are often known for their sense of family, humor, and optimism, but the reboot opted for a more somber, almost dystopian atmosphere. The shift alienated longtime fans who were expecting a more faithful adaptation to the team's dynamic and spirit. Another major issue with the reboot was the underdevelopment of its characters. In the comics, Reed Richards and his team are celebrated for their depth and growth as individuals, but in the 2015 film, the characters felt hollow and lacked meaningful arcs. The relationships between the characters, especially the sibling rivalry between Johnny and Sue, were reduced to superficial interactions that didn't really capture the heart of the Fantastic Four's family dynamic. Reed's transformation into Mr. Fantastic and the team's eventful unity felt rushed, leaving little room for emotional investment. The casting also came under fire, particularly Michael B. Jordan's portrayal of Johnny Storm. His casting as the Human Torch led to significant backlash from some fans who were upset about the race change for the character. While Jordan's performance was praised for his charisma and energy, the decision reinforced the film's already controversial and polarizing nature. Perhaps the most significant issue with the 2015 reboot was its deviation from the source material. The film altered key aspects of the team's origin, shifting from their classic spacefaring accident to a darker, science-driven experiment gone wrong. While reimaginings of origin stories are not uncommon in superhero films, the film's change felt more like an attempt to make the Fantastic Four fit into a different genre entirely, rather than a true adaptation of the beloved comic book superheroes. In the end, the 2015 reboot did little to revive the Fantastic Four on the big screen. The combination of a dark, grim tone, underdeveloped characters, and deviation from the core elements of the comics left the film struggling to find its footing. While it had high hopes for the future of the franchise, it only reinforced the idea that the Fantastic Four just couldn't seem to catch a break in Hollywood. Luckily, due to Kevin Feige, the Fantastic Four finally caught their big break. Marvel Studios is gearing up to introduce the Fantastic Four into the MCU. Officially announced at San Diego Comic-Con in July 2024, the Fantastic Four First Steps is slated for release on July 25th, 2025. Directed by Matt Shakman, the film embraces a retro-futuristic 1960s setting, paying homage to the team's comic book origins. The confirmed cast includes Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, and Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm. In a departure from previous adaptations, this film won't rehash the team's origin story. Instead, it will showcase the Fantastic Four as established heroes navigating their roles in a 1960s-inspired world. This creative choice aims to offer audiences a fresh perspective, focusing on character dynamics and storytelling without retreading familiar ground. The retro-futuristic aesthetic is expected to blend 1960s design elements with futuristic technology, creating a unique visual experience. This approach not only honors the era when the Fantastic Four first debuted in comics, but also sets the film apart from other MCU entries. The casting has also generated significant buzz. Marvel's decision to finally integrate Fantastic Four into the MCU reflects a commitment to revitalizing these iconic characters. One of the most anticipated aspects of the upcoming MCU film is the portrayal of Galactus. Unlike the 2007 depiction in Rise of the Silver Surfer, where Galactus was represented as a nebulous cloud, the MCU is taking a different approach. Early teasers and behind-the-scenes insights suggest that Galactus will closely resemble his comic book counterpart, complete with his iconic armor and immense stature. Galactus first appeared in Fantastic Four number 48 in 1966. He is depicted as a colossal cosmic entity, donned in a distinctive armor, with a helmet featuring prominent horns. The visual representation has become iconic in comic lore, making any deviation a point of worry amongst enthusiasts. The decision to present Galactus in his true form isn't just about visuals. It speaks to a deeper understanding of the character. Galactus is not just a villain, he's a force of nature. He's a cosmic constant that challenges heroes to confront threats beyond their comprehension. He can literally eat planets for fun. And by embracing the authentic design, this faithful adaptation sets the stage for future storylines like Silver Surfer and other cosmic entities. Overall, the success or failure of the Fantastic Four First Steps could define Marvel Studios' future. Unlike previous adaptations, which either failed critically or commercially, this film isn't another superhero movie. It's a test of Marvel's ability to reintroduce legacy characters into a changing cinematic landscape. With the MCU facing growing criticism over recent projects, including concerns about declining quality and superhero fatigue, the Fantastic Four First Steps has an almost impossible mission. Another key challenge is audience reception. The Fantastic Four aren't like the Avengers or the X-Men. They are a family first, superhero second. Their strength has always been in their relationships, the way they bicker, support, and ultimately grow together. If the movie fails to deliver a dynamic that feels genuine, no amount of flashy CGI or comic accurate storytelling will save it. Ultimately, the Fantastic Four First Steps is carrying the weight of not just past failures, but also the future of Marvel's interconnected universe. If it succeeds, it could be the fresh start the MCU desperately needs. If it flops, it might just mark the beginning of the end for Marvel's dominance in the superhero genre.